delighted to welcome as our guest in this studio the wonderful Jennifer Saunders. It's a great thrill and an honour for you to have joined us today for us. Jennifer, before we go any further, you've done Desert Island Discs.
I have.
And this is a very different concept because instead of you being cast on an island far from anywhere and marooned, you are in fact in a busy studio with lots of people in the middle of a very busy city with lots of people. So how have you gone about choosing your records today?
Well, I've chosen records that kind of represent what I listen to now, post-Desert Island Discs.
Are you pleased
I'm
to be
generally
back?
in my car, I have to say, if I listen to music.
Ah, interesting.
So these are tracks that I've repeated often, I've had on repeat.
Oh, that's very interesting. Before we hear the first one, so you're listening to in your car, and it's been pointed out to me that, in fact, for instance, on Top Gear, which is a programme we both appeared on, you drove considerably faster than me around the lap.
No, you drove considerably slower.
There's another way of looking at it. More safely is the way I like to look at it. But when you're in your car, does the music, the pulse of the music, drive you on to be, overtaken in a bit more dangerous manner, do you think?
No, because I listen to quite slow tracks. I think generally I listen to quite sort of gentle tracks.
To slow you down?
Yeah, I mean, I think generally I'm quite a happy person, so I tend to listen to quite miserable music. And try and I'm very loud music I don't listen to a lot, I have to say.
So you don't turn to play the music very
I listen
loud?
to quite cheesy music as well. I do like a good old ballad.
Everyone likes a piece of cheese.
I think I wouldn't often dare put my iPod in the player in the house and play it to most people because something awful is bound to come up.
What is your first piece of music?
The first piece is a bit of Kate Rusby,
Lovely.
who I sort of got to know and played a lot of her music over the last couple of years. And she was kind of my introduction into folk music, which I hadn't really listened to before.
When was that?
4 or 5 years ago.
And she's one of the great new folk people, I suppose, isn't she? She's fantastic.
And I particularly like the songs she writes herself, actually, rather than the more traditional stuff.
Yeah.
Because I never really got into folk in a big way. I was always into country music a lot. But I think she's a nice introduction into it.
And that's exactly. Folk music, country music, it all intertwines somewhere along the lines of it. Well, we'll discuss the origins of folk music in a moment. But first of all, here's Jennifer's first choice of record, which is Kate Rusby and Underneath the Stars. The enchanting voice of Kate Rusby, Underneath the Stars, chosen by our guest here today, Jennifer Saunders. We're so pleased that you're here, Jennifer. You were saying you go to see Kate a few times. And
I have.
And she's just wonderful live.
She's beautiful live. I mean, her voice is something else.
It is fantastic.
Yeah,
it's absolutely
great.
Pure. And is she from a folk family, do we know, Kate Rusby?
I think she's from a musical family, actually. Her father is musical.
You see,
in a folk band, I think.
This is what I love, when music is passed like that. Somebody learns it like... When were you first aware of music? Can you remember as a child? What was the first sort of music you enjoyed listening to?
My father was very bad at music. He had a bit of the James Last Orchestra playing.
Nice.
Quite a lot. And I don't really... Nina and Frederick a bit, I suppose, my parents played. But not a great deal of music. And then my brother started playing Yes and the Strawbs, and that's probably when I realised that you could buy albums.
Yeah, and get groovy. Yeah,
get
lovely.
groovy.
Did you collect records? Did you like...
Yeah, no, madly. Especially when I was a student, actually. And you'd just go down to second-hand record shops and flick through. But that was great then, because you could one thing led on to another, on to another. That's how I got into country music a bit.
Do you collect... Have you got your collection of records still?
They're somewhere in storage. I think they'll all be bent by now, because they've been stored too long.
You do have to be very careful, because if they get overheated, I mean, that's why I rather like them, but they are far more resilient to damage than the CD. Because when the CD came out, I don't know if you've got all your CDs still, we were told that you could use them as a frisbee, spread jam on them, and so forth.
Yeah, not possible.
None of it was possible.
A complete lie.
Whereas or bend them, in front of an electric fire. All of those things, which you can do to a record, and they will still just about play. That's the thing about our good old friend, the record.
No, they start jumping quite easily, don't they, those CDs?
Yeah, so anyway, that's something else to worry about. So the next choice of record is Nick Cave.
I do miss the album cover. That's the thing I miss more than anything, is the big picture, the reading the words as you listening to a whole album.
Yes,
back to back, which you never do.
Body of work that somebody's put together as a special. Yeah, exactly. An album
side
stuff.
One and side two.
Side one, side two.
Sometimes 5 songs is enough, right?
Yes, because we have the instrumentals. I've got a Jelly Roll Morton album. One side just plays the piano, other side piano, and vocals.
Yeah.
Nice, you see. Separating out the dance,
I think,
the smooches on the other side.
But I remember Dawn and I used to go trailing through all the old record shops just for the naffest records. We found Barbara Cartland's album, which was a classic.
Now,
and Noel Gordon's album.
Oh.
Which are just classics.
Fantastic sleeves as well, I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I went to a Dutch museum where they had just record sleeves on the wall, and they're so fantastic. What does Barbara Cartland do on the front of her record sleeve?
Like Barbara Cartland.
Just being her.
Yeah.
Pink Wells
well lit, pink.
Now, we'll come on to Dawn in a moment, but before we do, your next choice of record is Nick Cave.
Yeah, now I got into Nick Cave strangely because, well, Aid was into him a lot, so I resisted Nick Cave for a long time, thinking, that's kind of boys' heavy stuff. And then Ella started singing, my daughter started singing Into My Arms, which I just thought was fantastic. And from then on, I just got hooked on Nick Cave.
Yes, a great
But it
song,
can be a bit miserable, so I've chosen a cheerful one.
Yes. But you were saying, naturally, you're quite a happy person, so it's quite nice to listen to sad things.
I do, I love listening to, honestly, I would, because I automatically go to the saddest record on the album rather than the happiest. So now I try to do a few happy records on.
This is one that you've chosen now,
one. This is Nick Cave, Breathless.
The wonderful Mr. Nick Cave, Breathless, chosen by our guest here, Jennifer Saunders. It's so nice to see you, Jennifer. Now, you mentioned that woman in the last, who's been in this studio, actually, in this very studio.
That woman? French.
Yes, exactly. Tell us about when you first met her. Can you remember what sort of was there any significant things happened to you that day?
I remember exactly the day, because she was late back to college, and she arrived wearing a fawn corduroy skirt and a baseball cap on her head back to front.
Is that very much the sort of person she is?
I thought, well, we're never going to get on. And she probably thought the same about me.
What were your first preliminary sort of points of interest?
Well, we shared a flat together with about sort of 6 other people. And the main reason we got on was because we had a lot of time off, and we spent a lot of that time off in that flat together, just annoying the other people, generally, and making up a little act. We invented a circus act called the Menapatsy Sisters, and we used to clear back the furniture and do it for people in the front room. And it basically involved wearing a black leotard with the tassel sewn on the back instead of the front. I mean, it was pathetic. But it was
And did the people, what sort of people were in the room? I mean, were they just neighbours or the other people
trying to watch
flat?
the telly, generally?
Yeah. Trying to watch the telly. Were you just lunging in front of the television?
Yeah, so eventually we had to get on the telly in order that they would stay watching it.
So that's really how you got started in show business, I suppose you could say.
It is, in the front room.
That time, I mean, because, you and Dawn, should we call her Dawn? I remember you coming on the Tube, and it was so exciting because people hadn't, there wasn't any comedy like all that sort of thing before.
It was very frightening, though.
Why was it frightening?
Because we had no idea what we were doing or what was sort of expected of us. And we were generally very hangover on the day of the show. Do you remember we used to come up the night before and drink extremely heavily? Yeah,
exactly.
And as if
to numb
really
the pain of being on the show.
And then the show actually happened, and you thought, oh God.
Yeah.
So basically, it was through a sort of hungover mist.
Yeah.
And terror.
And
just joy at seeing so many bands and people you'd heard and worshipped for so long.
Happy days, and fantastic, because all the things with those films with the comic strip. When you look back at it, what's your view of it? Because I've watched those comic strip films recently, and it seemed to me like they were really doing something that nobody else had done before.
I think totally, yeah. And I think, but those are the days when people literally gave you the money and you went off and did stuff, which doesn't happen now.
No.
You couldn't do the Tube now. You couldn't do the comic strip now. Because everything has to be so much more controlled, and it was like being in a toy shop. People had just given you the money, you could write the scripts, shoot them, and then go to the pub.
Yeah.
It was just great.
And then go up to the Tube.
Yeah.
And there was one I remember, which I did watch the other day, and it was it's you and Dawn reenacting the film Rebecca, sort of, or not reenacting the film Rebecca.
Yes.
But it was like a sort of a version of the film Rebecca.
It was called Consuela.
Yeah,
and I remember it because my car was in it. I had a little Alfa Romeo in it, and I only remember it because I had the little Alfa Romeo, and it was my car in the film.
But did you, with something like that, for instance, which is really great, I mean, it stood up as a great thing, although it must be 20 years old or something now. Did you sort of say to anybody, we're just going to film this, can you give us some money? Or did you have to present them with lots of detailed
No, they had the money. That eventually Peter sort of released the stranglehold on who could write them. And me and Dawn got one to write. And I don't know, we never seemed to have a budget meeting. We never seemed to have anything other than a sort of free rein to do what we wanted.
Now, your next choice of record is related to you.
Yes, it's my daughter Ella.
Who's great. She did some shows with us earlier this year.
Yeah, and she's been sort of gigging now for about 3 years. And has got an album out called Hold Your Horses, and this is the title track of the album. She's asked me to play that one particularly.
And when did you realise that she was going to be doing music?
Well, she's always done it, and she's always picked up a guitar quite early and taught herself the piano and that sort of thing. And Aid, because he plays guitar, they used to play a lot together. But then just from about the age of 14, in fact at 14, we were at Glyn Johns' house, and he produced her first she'd done one song, and he recorded her first song that she'd ever done about a devil.
And she's never looked back.
And she's never looked back.
Let's hear Ella Edmondson. The wonderful Ella Edmondson, Hold Your Horses, which is the title track of Ella's record, and
her single.
And her single.
Her new single.
And her quite rightly proud mother is here, Jennifer Saunders. Can we congratulate you on producing such a brilliantly talented daughter? Carrying on, with because we are sort of skimming through your life, I'm afraid, and there's been there's so much we could talk about. Absolutely fabulous, all the different Mitch. I mean, when did you first have the idea for doing Absolutely Fabulous?
Well, that was with Dawn. We'd done a sketch that had Dawn play the daughter character, and I played Adina. And then I think she adopted her daughter, and I was sort of at a loose end, being in a double act, and she was sort of out of the running for a bit. And so I just thought, well, I could write that as a sitcom.
Huge,
sort of lucky, really.
Huge, a world success,
really
one of the greatest shows, probably.
Yeah, and incredibly lucky to have got Joanna, really, I think, too. And that was only because she'd done a show with Ruby Wax, and Ruby said, "Oh, she's actually really funny." I said, "No, she's not actually really funny." And so we got her in. I think that was another bit of luck.
Now, the next piece of music you've chosen is by an American artist, which we'll come to in a moment. Mm-hmm. But then you've done quite a bit of work in America. You've been in Friends, and of course when people know you there, they sort of love you in America. In fact, it said, I've just seen this, and normally these things are tosh, but it says Forbes magazine said you're the 26th most influential female British export.
Yeah, what do they know? British export.
Yeah, I imagine you in a big box with sort of export written on it.
Export strength, yes. Jennifer Saunders, coming your way.
7.3.
How do you enjoy it? Because they love you there. Do you enjoy it when you go to America?
I do, actually. I mean, they, for some reason, seem to think we're still making Absolutely Fabulous. They just have it on a loop somewhere, and they sort of imagine that they haven't seen it before. No, I do enjoy going there. They have a much less cynical view of the whole business, really.
So the next piece of music you've chosen is Beyonce.
Yes,
love
the Bonts.
Beyonce.
I love Beyonce.
And do you listen to? Because you were saying earlier that you like listening to music in your car. Is Bonts
this
a good choice?
Beyonce album, the last one. I really enjoyed that in my car. You see, I probably couldn't put it on at home. I don't know what. I probably couldn't. Well, maybe this single, actually. This
next single, which I love, but I imagine it in your car being played quite loud. You know the people that come and traffic lights and you hear this. I imagine that's you with this song.
Yes. They normally hear my little pipey voice singing along to it as well.
So which is...
But I particularly like the video too. I mean, it's a fantastic video, this, and just enjoy it.
It is a marvellous piece of music. In fact, I shall be asking you about, because you have done beautiful versions of various female artists, what do you...
Thank God we're too old to have done this one. It would have been hideous.
It's never too late.
It would have been hideous.
Here we are with Single Ladies, Beyonce. Single Ladies, Beyonce, chosen by our guest Jennifer Saunders. Jennifer, it's been fabulous having you here in these in these last twilight moments that we have together here.
A bit of our career, these last twilight moments of our careers.
Looking back over the whole thing, yes, I mean, I have to say that really, endless BAFTAs, and I've never had one of those. You were faster than me on Top Gear. Golden Rose, I never had one of those. Things have gone incredibly well. When you look back at it all, is there anything that you think, well, I wish I'd have just done this differently? Is there anything you would have changed?
I would have worked a bit harder.
Why?
Oh, I think sometimes, when you look back and you go, God, I know what I was doing then. I was thinking about what's for lunch rather than, what the scene is and that sort of thing. There's lots of times when you look back at your own stuff and you cringe.
But you may be looking at that and thinking, oh, I remember I was thinking what's for lunch. But we were looking at it and thinking, look at that strange, mysterious, lost look in her eye. How does she achieve that beautiful, strange, mysterious, lost look? It's got a very special something in the eyes. How does she do it? She must prepare for weeks. But in fact, you've now revealed that it was something like that. But
just stuff. And you think, I think people that do, there's great actors and actresses. They actually have a level of concentration that I can't even imagine achieving.
But they're not very funny.
No, that's true. That's true. We've got to be them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. We're going to be all serious and sad all the time. Actually, that's what I should have asked. Is there a person in comedy from the past, or an actor or actress from the past who you always really sort of, when you thought, I'd like to sort of be like them? Was there a sort of a person that you looked at?
I suppose Lucille Ball, I think, of all the comedians. I think for TV comedy, she was the funniest and the best. I can't think of anyone else particularly that you would actually want to be.
And thinking about those, what about the Bad Shepherds? Tell us about them, because...
this is Aid's band. Aid's got a band together, which has sort of been his dream all his life, really, is to be in a band. And they're a folk band, largely. But they do punk and... bit of the Jam, bit of this, bit of that.
Well, he was brilliant. He came on to Hootenanny a few years ago, and he on New Year's Eve, and sang as a punk, Anarchy in the UK, but with a sort of a Frank Sinatra backing.
This could have been the germination of the Bad Shepherds.
It was a fantastic sort of clash of cultures that worked beautifully,
Yeah, it's really good. It's a brilliant live gig, and they're on tour the whole of October.
So you could go and see Aid
near
somewhere.
You, yeah.
Well, it's been fantastic you being our guest today. What's your last choice of music that you've chosen?
My last choice is a record that I honestly have on such repeat that even I'm nearly bored of it now. The Fleet Foxes' White Winter Hymnal.
And is this...
I don't know quite why, but I loved it from the moment I heard it. It feels like something I would really have loved in the 70s as well. It feels
they're
such
lovely. And they had that lovely
evocative quality to it.
And fantastic, what you were saying earlier about liking record sleeves. They had that lovely record sleeve. Is it right on this
lovely,
one? With the painting.
Yeah, little painting, lots of little people.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Jennifer Saunders.
Yeah, thank you.